be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs, and we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
Welcome back to Legendary Foods, Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today is Thursday, October 6th, 2022. And let's find out what's going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness. In his best-selling book, Good to Be Great, Jim Collins uses the concept of a flywheel to describe how businesses that consistently push in the right direction eventually have a breakout moment that gets the proverbial wheel spinning. And if I were Hadi Choopan and in his camp, thinking about how close we've been to having our own breakthrough moment over the last few years, well, I would be reminding myself every day that this is the time for us to dig deep and push, because that's the only way for us to keep this thing moving forward. We've known for months that Hadi's been planning to go into this year's Olympia a lot bigger, which seems to be a common theme with most of the top guys in the open class, seeing that Rami's sitting at the top of the division. And by all accounts, he's on track to do just that. And if he can find a way to get the best of both worlds by towing the line with his new size and his trademark grainy conditioning that's been his calling card all these years, then who knows? Maybe this does end up being the year he finally gets that flywheel starting to spin. If you didn't catch our show from this past Tuesday, which I'm sure all of you have, because I know that you would never miss an episode of the #1 bodybuilding show on YouTube, well, then you probably remember that we highlighted some recent comments by Big Ramy on Dennis James' podcast about Samson Dauda being a serious threat in the Olympia this year. And then right on cue, Samson released this update of himself running through a few of the mandatory poses that was absolutely insane looking. I'm sure that there was probably a handful of people who took what Ramy said with a grain of salt, but the truth of the matter is that we've heard high praise for Samson more than once now from people whose opinions carry some serious weight in our little corner of the world. So if you want to sleep on this potential as a top 5 threat this year, go ahead. But be prepared to get burned, because Samson looks like he's coming in very hot. A few days ago, I remember reading that we're up to over 30 athletes who are qualified for the Classic Physique Olympia right now. And with that many guys competing for the handful of placings that actually matter, it means you either have to up your game or find yourself on the outside looking in. And even though it's still early, based on what we've seen from Fabian Mayar, it looks like he's opting more towards the former than the latter. The latest update from Fabian's camp is that his weight is currently floating somewhere near 270 pounds, despite the fact that he's leaner now than he was at the same point in his prep last season. Unless you've gone back and checked out the pictures from where he was at the Europa Pro earlier this year, it's easy to forget how good he is when he's at the top of his game. But make no mistake, this guy is a premier talent. And if his conditioning is spot on come Olympia time, my guess would be that he's going to make a strong case for a top 6 finish. To a certain extent, I think fans in all sports are hardwired to have a little bit of shiny new object syndrome, which is actually a real thing. Google it if you don't believe me. As a fan, there's something exciting about the prospect of a new talent coming out of the woodwork who could be potentially a game changer. And if you sit back and think about it, that's probably one of the main reasons why there's been so much buzz surrounding GoodVito in the run-up to his first IFBB Pro qualifier. Now, granted, every time we see an update from him, the pictures seem to get more and more ridiculous. And if he were a homegrown product, people would probably be tripping over themselves to anoint him as the second coming. But still, that doesn't change the fact that there is something exciting about following the shiny new object to see if it really is a diamond in the rough. Because if he is as good as advertised, it adds another layer of intrigue to the season that's already had plenty of headlines. And that does it for yet another edition of Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, reminding you to always be true to your passions, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.